Hello and welcome to the debut edition of Cappin at the Spa. I'm Saratoga Geese, and we're recording live from Quivik Drive in sunny Saratoga. Our goal on this show is to talk about live long shots at 8 to 1 or higher that we feel have an opportunity to run well and give you some value in your exotic bets as well as in the win column. I've been coming to the spa since 1982 when Runaway Groom chased down Aloma's Ruler and Conquistador Cielo in the 1982 Travers. We hope to be doing live shows most weekends throughout the meet. I have with me two young handicappers who will provide some thoughts on each of the 10 races today. On my left is Daily Double Dan, and on my right, Exacta Box Bobby. Let's get right to it and start with race 1, which is claiming 32,000 at a mile and an eighth, and let's go to Bobby.
Awesome, thanks Geese. So I think for this first race to kick off this awesome opening day here at Saratoga, we got this 32,000 claimer going long on the dirt, and my selection in this race is going to be the 8 Praetoreo, trained by Steve Clasaris and ridden by Manny Franco. I think this horse is in with a big chance at a 6 to 1 morning line. I see these back 90 buyers in some of these dirt races back on his form. I believe that's January 5th back at Aqueduct, November 17th back at Aqueduct too. He seems to very consistently run well on the dirt, especially with the fast track, which we're going to have here today. I think he's going to get a good pace to run into from the 3 and the 6, so I like the 8 to come up and close at odds of 6 to 1 in the first race.
Excellent. Very interesting. What do you say about this race, Dan?
All right, taking a look at this race. Everyone is very competitive here, very similar buyers. So my favorite pick in this race, I'm looking at the 4 Marriage Fever. Marriage Fever, who finished right behind Protero, Bobby's pick, on April 17th, and also beat Protero the race before. Marriage Fever has, in his past 10 races, he's only finished out of the money once. So I'm looking at him to come in the top 3 at 8 to 1. That's my pick.
Very good. Excellent start to the meet and a very interesting mile and an eighth race, which they don't run very often here as much as we'd like to. And it is a different type of configuration than Belmont, these 1-turn versus 2-turn races. So in my opinion, I'm looking for the speed, as Danny said, to go out there and set it up for a couple closers. And let's face it, Indicott's going to be the favorite. But the horse has been a beaten favorite 2 of his last 3 times. So there's nothing special about him. And if he's going to be anywhere in that 8 to 5 range, I'm going to try to beat him also. I'm going to look for the race to fall apart a little bit and go with the 4, Danny's pick, Marriage Fever, and also put in the 7 at 10 to 1, Fire Starter, the horse coming from Oaklawn, to possibly close into that pace and see if that race collapses, we could get a good price in the first race. Let's move on to the second, which is a state-bred maiden special weight at 5.5 furlongs, and let's go to Danny this time.
All right, taking a look at this race. I know he's the morning line favorite 7 to 2, but I like Scat back with Carlos Martin. Some good trainer statistics here. First time start. Has the best combination of Tomlinson's as well with the turf and distant numbers there. So, if he's around 7 to 2, I'm certainly going to be rolling with him, but anything about 2 to 1 and lower, I'm probably going to take a move over and look at Lady of Miracles, the 8 to 1 shot. It's a maiden special weight, kind of a pick 'em here. Everyone's in the race, but, I'm looking at the 5 Scat back with the 3 and 2nd, Lady of Miracles.
Interesting. What do you think about this race, Bobby?
Yeah, so when I took a look at this 2-year-old filly maiden special weight, one of the things I like to do is look at the buyer pars and compare them to the buyers of the horses that have already ran. When you look at this race, the buyer par for the race is a 68, yet none of the horses who have ran have really shown any ability to get close to that, with the highest looking like the 45 from Beau Arts. So I know a lot of those races were on the dirt, this is on the turf, some of those horses have an opportunity to move up, but for me, I'm going to look for a new shooter in this race, a horse that hasn't run before. So for me, the logical way to go is with the 2 Misty Forest at 6 to 1 on the morning line. Kimball's pretty good with first-time starters, and I like that decent turf Tomlinson rating, especially compared with the rest of the field. Has a lot of good works back on the form, so I think I'm going to go with the 2 Misty Forest to win over a lot of the horses that have already ran before.
Very good, very good. My thoughts in the second are similar. I think there's really not a lot of form to look at. You're talking about a state-bred maiden special weight at 5.5 furlongs, so I'm going to take a little look at the 1, Wanda Fay with Jose Ortiz, last year's leading jockey. First-time blinkers, Mike Maker is 20%. Second time on the grass, Mike Maker's a big-time turf trainer, so we have to take a serious look at him. I don't like any of the other horses who have run before, so I would probably take a look at that one and maybe hook him up with Danny's Scat back for Carlos Martin, who Carlos Martin does jump up here at the spa fairly often with some first-time starters, and he is 22% with first-time starters. So I'll probably hook the one up with the 5 in some fashion. Let's take a look at the third race. Starter allowance, 50,000 at a mile and an eighth. And let's go to Bobby.
Sure, so for this third race, we originally had 6 horses, but unfortunately the 5, Sir Valentine, is scratched, who I had originally had as my selection. So in this race, very interesting race. I think 2 of the shorter prices in the field, the 1 Awfully Brawn and the 6 Point Hope, actually have pretty similar sort of form coming in that they both jumped up really high on the buyer scale in their most recent race, and it's pretty out of whack with their prior performance. That's not an angle I usually like to see in a horse. I like to see a bit more consistency in their running style, so I'm actually going to play against the 1 and the 6, look for those big last starts to be aberrations, and I'm going to look for a bit more of a price with the 2 Carlino at 6 to 1. Carlino's a 3-year-old horse that's only raced twice in his life, once on the dirt, and in that one dirt race, won pretty impressively at almost 11 to 1 in a maiden claimer last out. So I'm going to go with the 2 Carlino to upset some of these more experienced horses.
Interesting. Danny, what do you have to think?
I have a similar take in this race. I don't have too many thoughts. I'm definitely going to bet small on this, but I like the 2 and 4 Carlino, like Bobby said, and also Surf Tap. They're both similar coming in with improving buyers. If you look at Surf Tap, he ran on the turf last race and didn't do very well, so I'm just throwing that out. He's back on the dirt here, riding with Jose Ortiz, coming in, improving almost every race up to a 72 buyer, similar to Carlino, improving up to a 77. So those are the 2 I'm going to look at in this race.
All right. In my opinion, I'm against the 6. I really think that buyer was really out of control, and I'm looking for him to bounce a little bit. I do like Carlino, Lemon Drop Kid horse. Lemon Drop Kid is famous for distance, so I think this horse is going to like a mile and an eighth, going to like to stretch out. I do think the 1 Awfully Brawn is interesting. Kelly Breen doesn't come up here too much, and Paco Lopez came up with him, who Paco is his go-to rider. And the horse just blew it out last race. Maybe they made a little change that you don't see here, and the horse has really jumped out. And he also might get a really clear lead here. With Sir Valentine out of the race, there's a chance the 1 horse is going to be 3 lengths in front, and he may be tough to catch. So let's move to the 4th, and we're talking at a allowance, 85,000, non-winners of 1 at 6 furlongs. Nice competitive race here, and we're going to go to Danny.
All right, taking a look at this race. Jumps off right away. A big heavy favorite, Chad Brown, Castellano, pattern recognition, running some big buyers in his first 2 races. But what I'm going to take a look at here is So Noted at morning line 12 to 1 to be closing off the pace. He's right up there by those buyer pars, improving every race too. You look at the front runners in this race. I see the 1, 2, 3, 6. So I'm looking 6, 7 could be on the lead too. So I'm looking for there to be a tough pace, a couple horses run with pattern recognition, and I'm looking at some closers to get up there. So I don't know if I'm going to have So Noted to win, but I'm definitely going to have him in an exacta there with pattern recognition.
Very good. Interesting. Bobby.
Yeah, so in this race, I think pattern recognition is the real deal. He's not a horse that I'm going to try and beat. You'll see all 3 of us try and beat a lot of favorites on this card. For me, this isn't one of them. I think pattern recognition is going to win this race. In terms of how to bet it, how to make money on this race, I do think there's opportunity because the next 2 horses on the morning line, the 5 and the 8, I think are bet against. For the 5, it looks like off that strong work tab, at least from the morning line, that he's going to take some money, and I just don't see his form from overseas being that great compared to the other horses in here. And for the 8, he ran that great race back at Belmont in his debut last year, but since then really hasn't ran at all. And he was actually entered a few weeks ago and was a late scratch because he ran away in the sort of post parade. So not a horse I'm really interested in taking. So I think if you want to make money on this race, I would look to keep pattern recognition on top of some of the longer shots in the field.
Interesting. Well, let's hope Tackleful doesn't run away today. He'll be running right through the crowd and across the street to the Oklahoma track here at Saratoga, so that could be interesting. I do like So Noted a lot in this race. To add to a few things that Danny said, you're talking about a horse who really improved in 2015, every single race. 2016 moved right into those mid to high 80s, really showed some closing kick. First time out in almost a year for Charlton Baker in an open allowance. Ran 6 beaten 10, lost the pattern recognition by 7 lengths in that race. But I'm not too concerned because I think the pace is going to be a lot different in this race. I do think pattern recognition is very tough. You got to double up 90 buyers, so you have to be careful. I am definitely going to play the 3 with the 4, and I will also have the 3 and the 4 in my pick 4s and pick 5s. But I'll certainly be rooting hard for the 4. Let's go to the 5th race, which is a maiden special weight, 83,000, 5.5 furlongs. This is the first maiden filly 2-year-old race of the meet.
Stop.
And let's go to Bobby.
Sure. So for this race, again, I'm going to look and compare the current form of the horses who have already ran to sort of some of the new shooters to the buyer par in this race of 74. The only horse with experience that has come close to that is the 4 Amazing Belle, 4-1 on the morning line. I think she's a legitimate horse in this race. I'm not a horse I would really look to play against in terms of if you're playing exactas or trifectas. But I'm going to look for a bit more of a price to get the win here. And I'm going to go to the 6 Crimson Creed, shipping in for Ingrid Mason. This horse shows really great works coming up from Arlington, and Ingrid Mason has really good stats with first-time starters. So I think I'm going to go that way in this race. Again, pretty wide open, not much form to go off, so I'm going to stick with a new shooter.
Very good. Danny.
All right, taking a look at this race. Looks like the 4 and the 7 are going to be the favorites here with Todd Pletcher and Velazquez, and then Amazing Belle with the 65 buyer in one of his 2 races. So I'm looking for someone a little under the radar. I'm taking a look at the 1, More Mojo, morning line 6-1 with Brad Cox. Very good trainer. You look at his stats right there. First start, 17%, 21 2-year-olds, dirt, sprint, all the way across the board. He's good. Good distance Tomlinson's on this 1, More Mojo. Just kind of looking for someone under the radar. I know he's on the rail for the first start, but I'm going to take a shot with the 1.
All right, good. And this is the first fun race for us at the spa because we sit right by the white fence there, and we love watching the horses go by and then taking a look at those first-time starters in the paddock and how they look on the track. So this is going to be our first real chance to catch these 2-year-olds and see how they act. It's really important to take a look at them if you are at the track, because you're going to see some horses that really look skittish and some others that look on the muscle, and you're going to really want to take a look at that if you have the opportunity. I'm going to just say one quick thing here about the 5, Southampton Way. Horatio DePaz does not come here very often. It's a 33% trainer. Huge works. Went off at 6-5 his first time out. Didn't run well. It was in the mud. If you want to give him a little pass for that, takes 8 weeks off. Bullet works at Laurel. They ship him up. Put Santana on him. Sagamore Farm. If he goes off in that double digit and he looks pretty good to be on the track, I'm going to take a shot at him. Let's move to the 6th race, which is a state bred allowance. Non-winners are 1 at 5.5 furlongs on the grass. And let's go to Danny.
All right, taking a look at this race. 1 horse jumped right out to me. Mo Promise. It's going to be my favorite pick of the day right here with this 3. Bet him his last time out, June 30th, 2017. Disappointed me, lost by 21 lengths, but I'm coming back with him. If you take a look, his first race, 67 at Saratoga. Ran twice at Saratoga, his best 2 races. Which, right back here at Saratoga today, too. Runs good at this short 5.5 furlong distance. His other 4 races, all at least a mile. And, you take 2 of them in the slop. So, throw them out. And, I think at 12-1 morning line, I love him to bounce back and run a great race here. I also have him paired at the 12, Discreet Image, who I believe is the morning line favorite. He was just improving, coming up, finished, 4 of his 6 races in first or second. So, I like him to be right up there. So I'm looking at a 3-12 here.
All right. You going to promise us that?
Oh, yeah.
Horse
No
is gonna run
promise.
well?
I hope so.
All right. Might be sitting back here cutting the grass tomorrow if that horse runs up the track. Let's go to Bobby.
Yeah, so I don't really disagree with anything Danny said about this race. I think Mo Promise is a really interesting horse to key in some of your exotics and trifectas. For the win here, I'm going to go a bit away from Mo Promise and go towards the 11, Same Kind of Crazy, for Bruce Brown. Even though this is a really short sprint, I do still think there's value in looking for closers when there looks to be a ton of speed in the race, and that's what I'm seeing in this race here. Between the 3 Mo Promise, the 8 Ingrid, the 10 Buffalo Miss, I think that there could be a really contentious pace in here, and I think that sets up well for the 11. If you look at the 11's most recent turf sprints, other than his most recent start, I'm seeing buyers of 75, 77, 76, pretty consistently finishing in the money and running buyers in that mid-70s range, which matches up really well with the rest of the horses in this field. He's also ran once on the turf at Saratoga and won that race. So I'm going to look for the 11, Same Kind of Crazy on top, and I'm going to play my exacta box of the day in this race as well, putting my 11 with Danny's 3 and also the 12, Discreet Image.
All right, very good. We all seem to be on Mo Promise a little bit. It's funny because I can go the entire Saratoga meet and never put a nickel on a Gary Contessa horse. Generally, he wins about, 3 or 4 races out of 70, 80, 90 starters. I'm generally willing to just take my lumps when he wins and bet against him every time, and I usually do pretty well with that. But I am going to put a little bit on him today because he seems to enjoy the 5.5 furlongs. He's coming long to short, second time off a layoff. He's got 5 or 6 good angles going here. If we can get him at 10, 12 to 1, just a note, they did switch to Robbie Alvarado on him. So I don't know if that really makes a difference because Franco and Alvarado are both good riders. But I'm going to take a shot with that 3 also in some exotics, some pick 3s and things like that. And the 11 horse I also like with the win previously at the Spa. So we're in a bit of an agreement here. Okay, we're moving on to the 7th race. Optional claiming 80, mile and 3/8 on the inner turf. Let's go to Bobby.
Yes, this is a great turf race up here at Saratoga. I actually have my best bet of the day in this race, and that's going to be the 9, Mark My Style, 12 to 1 morning line odds. What I really like about this horse is in his 2 firm turf races so far this year, 94 and 95 buyers, really strong races, running on or near the lead, which is different than his running style last year. So it really looks like this horse kind of changed up his running style and has really improved for the better for it. I think he can either go out and lead the whole way or sit just off the 5, Infinite Wisdom, if Arroyo decides to go with the 5. So I really like the 9 here as my best bet of the day.
Very, very drastic.
All right.
Daniel.
Taking a look at the race, I like the 7 here, Gold Shield. Last 6 races, hasn't finished worse than 4th. Looking at a 10 to 1. My only concern here is, can he run this distance, a mile and 3/8? He only went that far once and didn't do too well. I'm also looking at the 3 here, Kaigun. On this distance, 2 for 4, finishing in the money. If you look at the best buyers of 2017, he actually has the top 1 in 99 at Keeneland, but still the top buyer here at 12 to 1. So moving on to my daily double of the day, I'm singling the 3 in the last race, Mo's Promised, with the 3, 6, 7, 9 in this race, pairing him with Red Rifle and Mark My Style.
Very good, very good. Quick side note on this one, if you look at Infinite Wisdom's last race, ran a fabulous race, got caught at the wire by Hello Don Julio. I had a big win bet on him at 22 to 1. Did have the exacta though, which is nice. But that's what we look for at this show, is we look for horses like that you think can jump up at double digits. This is a 20 to 1 shot, running second. So that's what we're hoping to give you, is a couple tidbits like that over the course of this weekend. Plethora of good horses here in this race, and an excellent betting opportunity. My 2 compatriots here both looked at double-digit horses, and I'm going to look at a different double-digit horse that was never even discussed. Mukhtasar. I hope I say that right. 15 to 1 with Joe Bravo, Jersey Joe. Very interesting horse. Ran this distance in Europe and ran it well. Came back in 2016. He ran once at Belmont, 93 buyer, excellent race. Ran a good 3rd. 2 inter-track races, complete throwouts. Comes back at Monmouth a month ago. Runs second at 7 to 1, beaten a half length. Waited, steadied, maybe a little bit of trouble in that race. You can go back and look at that if you like and see what you think. But bullet work since then. I think this horse has a shot to jump up also at 15 to 1. So anybody playing an exacta box in this race, in my opinion, you got to play 3 double-digit horses and let it go. 8th race, let's move on. The Schuylerville, the first graded stakes of the meet. Grade 3, Philly 2-year-olds. Let's go to Danny.
All right, it's another race here that I think is wide open. I like this 9, Stainless, with Todd Pletcher, John Velazquez. Tough to bet against. I think he's going to be right up there with the favorites, but what I'm actually looking at is the 7, Laudation, 12 to 1 morning line. If you look at every horse in this race besides the 3 and 7, they're all front runners. They're all going to be on the lead. So I'm looking for some closers here with best performance, improving on his 2 races along with Laudation. Both improving, both closers. That's what I'm looking for, 3-7.
Very good. Bobby.
All right, I'll keep this one short. I think the 9 is my clear play here. Pletcher Velazquez, as Danny mentioned. Pletcher pretty consistently runs these sort of 2-year-old horses in maiden races elsewhere before bringing them up to the Spa for some of these graded stakes. Their buyers oftentimes look low, and they come up and compete and win against horses with higher buyers. So I'm going to go with the 9 Stainless for Pletcher.
I agree with Bobby. I also agree there's going to be a bunch of speed in the race, so I do think Laudation has a chance. And also, the only other comment I'll make is Limited View. Salzman, top trainer in Laurel. Again, horse only ran once in his life, went off at even money in a 7-horse field, so the horse is well managed, there's no doubt about it. Wins big, excellent works after a 6 furlong, followed by a 5 furlong work at Laurel. So this horse has enough bottom in him. I don't think he has to go to the front. But again, 10-1, I'd probably hook him up with Pletcher and maybe one of the other closers. Let's go to the 9th, the Lake George, Grade 3, mile and a 16th. Excellent opportunities in this race. Let's go to Bob.
Yeah, so here in the Lake George, one thing I want to call out with the morning line favorite, the 155 for Brown and Ortiz. That horse is probably going to be lower than 7-2. I know the buyers are a teeny bit low compared to some of the other horses in this, but last out she finished second by 2 lengths to New Money Honey, who came back and won the Belmont Oaks $1 million race against a lot of top Euros. 55 was entered into that race, scratched by Brown to seek out a slightly easier spot here. They're looking for the win. I'm going to play